like when I work with sales teams, although this works with any version of productivity. See, the trouble with most people in the corporate world is that, like most human beings, when they get scared, they get busy trying. They push, they effort, they struggle, they stress, they strain. And it's the pushing and the trying that actually works against them until they learn how to get some part of them to really not push, but to play at what they're doing, to enjoy, to embrace what they're doing.
Hi, Gary. I'm so happy to be here with you today. And I just want to get started. You've been in this industry for a long time and your background is so vast. So please just tell us a little bit about, how you ended up founding Rise Leadership Group.
Thank you. I was very blessed that my first mentor, like over 40 years ago, was generations ahead of his time. And I had profound experiences in, I lived in his community, a therapeutic community, for like 3 years. And when I started doing my own workshops and realized that I'd have people who were therapists and psychologists and people who'd been through a lot of other things, and they had never seen anything like this. So I realized what a blessing it was that he was my first mentor.
Mm.
And, you know, while I was in his community, I had very profound, what we call breakthroughs. And I remember my very first breakthrough, it was like I was such a people pleaser that I couldn't say no to anything. I just always trying to make other people happy and, make it work. And after that experience, without trying to change, I saw myself growing, being more assertive, being able to say no, draw boundaries, ask for what I wanted 100%, dive into life. And so
Wow. So
after,
that all happened like pretty soon after this realization?
well, there are moments in life
Hmm.
that are absolutely life-changing.
Hmm. Yeah.
And once in a while, when somebody gets to those heights, that are beyond words, it can literally change your life in a heartbeat.
Mm.
And while I was in that community, I had many breakthroughs like that, many ahas, insights, revelations. So I started doing my own courses. And eventually then I created a retreat um, called The Awakening.
Mhm.
And when other people from all the great trainings around the world started coming, we all began to realize that there's nothing like this out there.
Mm.
Like I went around the country and I kept exploring. I've done over 30 different disciplines like hypnosis and NLP and Native American and tons of great technologies for empowerment.
Yeah.
And so far I haven't seen a space, an atmosphere of people like being their best self, like
Mhm.
showing up, shining, being the gift they came to be, like I
Mhm.
have in that retreat. And
Mm.
I love all the things I've done. I'm just excited that we have a tool that is innovative and has made a real difference in people's lives.
Yeah, I mean, you work with so many leaders and influential people, speakers, coaches, organizations, all looking to improve, communication, relationships, their leadership effectiveness, right? You've been doing this in so many different capacities. What inspires you to work with leaders specifically?
Well, actually, Actually, it was an accident
Mhm.
because I was just doing what I loved. But like while I was still a very young at the time, I was a therapist. But my first big success was Mark Hughes. Like through this breakthrough process,
Mhm.
I supported him in creating something called Herbalife,
Mhm.
which, at one point his face was on the cover of Fortune magazine because he was the fastest growing company in the history of America.
Yeah.
And then later on, when I did the retreat, then Ron and Joseph, the last day of the retreat is a process called the greatest key to manifest your vision, which is higher purpose.
Mhm.
And I use some quotes from Werner Erhard, who created EST in I think it was the late 70s or something.
Mhm.
And because of that particular day, Ron and Joseph said that was their favorite process of the whole retreat.
Mhm.
And they ended up bringing 12.5 million people out of poverty through microloans. And it was so cute because they didn't share with me their success until we were in front of the cameras. And it was everything I could do not to burst into tears, thinking that I might have had any small contribution to that miracle happening.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. What a powerful impact to have in those
Yeah.
communities.
Another one that I really like is Bert, who he was really scared because he got a letter from an agency saying, "You're going to meet with our 5 agents to decide if you get to exist." And his wife had just gotten through the Success in All Relationships course. And we teach a thing in that course called How to Melt Your Favorite Jerk, which is really cool because, when people are attacking you, most people don't have a tool. But once you know this skill, within a matter of minutes, whether they want to or not, they melt. They get off it. And so one day, him and his wife, after he got this nasty letter, had a tiff and she used the tool and she melted him. And he started to walk out of the kitchen. He went, "Wait a minute, what did you do?" And she says, "Well, I learned it in the relationships course. And so he calls me up. "Can I hire you?" "Yeah, sure. So we spent a couple hours together and he got pretty decent at it. So he called me as soon as that meeting was over and said that within about 45 minutes, they were saying, "Look, Bert, the law is this. Now, the way you can get around the law is you can do this and that." They were literally showing him how to get around their own laws. And what I love about that story is that today, the machine that he built saves hundreds of premature babies' lives every day. And those are some of my favorite successes, but what means the most to me personally is when people bring family to one of my trainings or one of my retreats. I've had whole families come to the retreat, and it's even if it's just a father and a daughter or a mother and a son or sisters, any family, and that relationship will never be the same because it's so
Mhm.
powerful to watch people going through the kind of healing and reprogramming that lifts their self-esteem to entirely new levels and gets them willing to really dive into life and play at 100%.
Mm. Mhm. Wow. That's so powerful, that impact that these simple exercises and really skills, right? Because learning these sorts of things they're just skills, they're relationship skills, communication skills that we don't necessarily, nobody teaches us this stuff in school. And it can just, these simple things can make such a huge impact. It's
Oh,
crazy.
yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
What does
Yeah.
a typical like event look like for you when you're working with people? Is it mostly retreats? Is it like a workshop? I mean, I know you also do
Yeah,
corporate.
we have a long-term program, which is long-term consistent support called Movement to Mastery.
Mhm.
But then we do workshops every week, like once a month, we have a workshop, different titles like the Master Keys to Assure Your Success or Success in All Relationships. And so when people sign up for our programs, they can do, one workshop or a few workshops or do the longer program. And then the retreat, ever since COVID, we've had to limit it to once a year, but it's like two phases about a month apart.
Mhm.
And it's basically a, a life-changing paradigm shift. Like
Mhm.
I remember when um, Ron invited me to do a corporate training with AT&T, and um, I had I had asked him, "Look, I've got three endings for this course, for this training, and when I get to that part where I'm about to do the last process, I want to get your opinion because he had a lot more experience with me in the corporate arena at the time."
Mhm.
And when I got to the end, he said, "Yeah, you've got him. Go for the gusto."
Mhm.
So I did a training that is, well, I did an imagination exercise with them where they identified their all-time favorite music, their all-time favorite books, their all-time favorite movies, their all-time favorite heroes, things like that. And then I had them do this thing in the imagination where they would describe themselves not as them, but as the thing itself, like as the music or the hero. And then
Mhm.
I am this music or I am this person and I am adjective, 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 adjective. And then my message to the world is one sentence. And I didn't tell them this, but what they're really doing is identifying the core, the essence of who they are, their
Mhm.
fundamental core self. And
Mhm.
so when it was over, everybody was so touched and lifted and excited to share with each other that the guy who hired us came over and said, "When's the last time you saw a corporate training where, when the moment it was over, people didn't bolt for the door?" He goes, "Look, it's almost an hour after the training and nobody's leaving," which I love in a corporate training. The fact that, people were so excited by what they were learning that they didn't want to leave. I
Wow.
love that.
That is really, really, really unique situation. I feel like I've worked in the corporate space, in the corporate benefits and wellness and leadership space for a long time myself, just more on the side of consulting and
Yeah.
being relationship communicator between to help companies find people like you. And that is very unique. Most of the time somebody brings in a speaker, brings in someone, it's so hard to get people to engage, and
Yeah.
let alone walk away with tangible change. So that's just an incredible story at how engaging your programs are.
Yeah. I learned a long time ago that the greatest tool that any presenter has, whether it's a fifth grade teacher or a Fortune 500 CEO, is the invisible atmosphere in a room, what I call space.
Mhm.
And it turns out that that greatest tool, that space, is synonymous with subconscious safety.
Mm,
So when I train trainers, like at AT&T or other companies, when I train trainers, I give them a manual that has over 100 different tools in 22 major categories like tone of voice, body language, different things. And every tool in that manual is
mm,
to inject a little more subconscious safety into the room.
mm.
So like
Yeah.
when I do some of my public trainings, I might use in one day, I might use 75 of those tools, but the audience never sees them.
Mm,
But
mhm,
they just know that by the end of the day, they're like blissed out and they don't
mhm.
know how they got there. Like they're just in awe. Like, wow, I'm so touched and moved and lifted, inspired, all that stuff. So
Yeah.
it's really fun to train trainers how to do this.
Mm.
You know,
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
going I'm going to create a premier training that I'm working on right now called World Class Facilitators and Healers,
Mm, mhm,
because I'm realizing that like the presentation workshop that I do at companies and things is called the Pinnacle of Presentations. And it's great, it's fantastic, but I realized that from facilitating the retreat, the awakening for so many years, decades, that there's a whole lot that I know that nobody knows.
mm,
And
mhm.
I
Yeah.
want to start training people who want to be world class
Mm.
trainers and facilitators and speakers and coaches and things like that.
That
So
sounds
that
amazing
sounds
direct.
exciting. Yeah,
Yeah, very exciting direction. And I mean, and it sounds like, I mean, that's your direction. How do you feel like that is going to help? And I'm sure there's so many answers to this question, but some of the major shifts that you're seeing right now, like what are the major shifts happening in the leadership development space or corporate training space that, you really hope to address, and also with this new direction?
yeah, thank you very much. It's a great question. The truth is that everything in the world is evolving,
Mm-hmm.
certainly leadership training.
Mm-hmm.
And so what I see happening now and will continue to evolve and get more and more like this is that they're realizing that didactic lecture type training is old news.
Yeah.
And if you want to change people, you need to get them to have a direct experience.
Mm.
Like,
Mhm.
even when I've trained like 200 salespeople at a time
Mhm.
on revolutionary sales. And I asked them, who knows the instant a sale occurs? And everybody took good guesses, but they couldn't tell me.
Mhm.
I said, a sale occurs when the client has not a good idea, but a direct experience of
Mm.
the value.
Mm.
So
Mhm.
leadership training is now evolving to where they get it that concepts are not enough.
Mhm.
You can teach great principles, but they have to have an experience so they can apply and use it in their daily operations.
Yeah. I can
That's
see.
what changes lives, is practicing something enough that they actually can apply it and use it consistently.
Right. Because so many companies struggle with these days, disengaged teams and hybrid workforces. And yeah, I mean, it sounds like that is the solution to, at least one of them, obviously, one of the things that teams can do and leaders can do is to bring in these sorts of experiential culture shifting approach.
Absolutely.
Mhm.
Absolutely. You
Yeah.
know, I've had people call me in because they had different teams that suddenly were being very unproductive.
Mhm.
And it's fascinating how with some simple tools that are very usable, that
Mhm.
they can do themselves on a daily basis,
Mm, mhm.
um, absolutely increases their productivity.
Yeah.
Absolutely. One example is that, like, when I work with sales teams, although this works with any version of productivity. See, the trouble with most people in the corporate world
Mhm.
is that, like most human beings, when they get scared, they get busy trying.
Mm,
They push, they effort, they struggle, they stress, they strain. And it's the pushing and the trying that
mm,
actually works against them until
interesting.
they learn how to get some part of them to really not push, but
Mm, mhm.
to play at what they're doing, to
Mhm.
enjoy, to embrace what they're doing. And there's
Mhm.
got to be a reason for that. Like, Wall Street even did an article not too long ago about how like an avalanche of executives are leaving these incredibly high paying jobs because money doesn't fulfill them anymore.
Mm,
They want to make a difference. They
mhm.
want to do something that really makes a difference and moves the planet along and
Yeah.
creates a higher vision for the world.
Yeah.
And that's where it's going. Like, it's not enough to make a lot of money anymore. People want to know that I count, that I matter. And it's fascinating because years ago, I took a millionaire from a million a year to like 7, 8 million a year in about, I don't know, 10 months or so. And after that, I thought, man, instead of charging my top hourly rate, I should have taken a percentage.
Mm,
So I started doing percentage clients. When somebody has a vehicle that could really take off and they just need to get out of their own way.
yeah.
And I found out that two of the things that really blew up people's income,
Mhm.
which would surprise you.
Mhm.
One of them is I had to get these A types who thought the reason why they make a lot of money is because they work their ass off, but they end up sacrificing the things that matter most, like their family and their well-being and their health and their vacations and their passions.
Mhm.
And so I taught them that you have to take recess three
Mhm.
times a day. Like,
Mm,
you have to take a 10, 12, maybe even 15-minute break to get out of your day, to get
mm.
out of your stressors. And I don't
Yeah.
care if they play video games or play guitar or do spiritual practices, but they have to put all that stuff in their day on the shelf and take a break so they put the clutch in and start to really shift into something that what Bashar would call is their highest excitement, or what I would say makes their heart sing.
Mm,
Once
mhm.
they take that short break, they bring a different person to the same circumstances. Their vibration is different. When I do this in trainings, I'll have them do exercises like this,
Mhm.
like put their personal dreams on a 3x5 card and then put their vision for the world on the bottom half of the 3x5 card. And then I'll have them try to influence a partner.
Mhm.
And then I'll ask the partner, because the first time they do it, they don't have the 3x5 cards. I just have them do it on their own. Then I have them create the 3x5 cards. I say, okay, now influence them as if you influence them, your dream is going to come true. And then I asked the listeners, what did you notice was different about them the second time? What was different about their facial expression, their countenance, their
Mhm.
attitude, their body posture? And everybody says, "Oh, it was different."
Yeah.
And then they do the third time, like, "What's my vision for humanity, for the world?"
Mm.
And the third time, everybody who I asked, that's the listener, goes, "Oh, man, that was way better." Like, I didn't even wanna do what they did the first time, and now I'm interested.
Hmm. Wow. So they just have to imagine or, choose a path that they feel is aligned with making humanity, improving humanity.
Yeah.
Mhm.
What Werner Erhard would call it a world that works for everyone. But
Mhm.
my version of that would be heaven on earth. But it doesn't matter the words. People can say, I want a world where everyone wins, a world where everyone knows unconditional love. It doesn't matter. As long as it includes everybody, it works.
Winning, not like there's winners and losers and
Yeah,
that
yeah.
the
Gotta
scarcity
be everybody
puts our nervous system into more rigid and fear-based.
from the higher perspective.
Mhm. Yeah.
And the second tool I gave my percentage clients that really worked was you have to make sure that your family's cups are filled to the brim, that
Mm,
your family's emotional cups
mm,
are
mhm.
filled. Because a
Yeah.
lot of these guys don't understand how much they are unconscious about what it costs their family
Mhm.
to make all the money. And without that, it turns out that what I've discovered over the decades I've been doing this is that family is the greatest hidden secret
Mm,
to your success.
mm, mhm. I believe that. I do. And I think it is like an old mentality that like, was very widespread belief that you had to like choose, right? That you couldn't have both, that you couldn't have success and money and a happy family life, right?
Yeah, and it makes me sad when I watch biographies about people who were very famous and genius, but they sacrificed their families in the process.
Mhm.
And, they don't realize they were operating on two pistons and they could have run on eight pistons if they would have really.
Yeah.
And, it doesn't take a lot of time. Like, I'm
Right.
an amazing father. I've got two incredible boys. And because of all the tools I learned, in my own healing, I
Mhm.
was able to do things for them that absolutely, I mean, they're both like shining stars. And I love it when parents bring their kids to a seminar or a training or a retreat. And I love watching those kids grow up and do these amazing things because there's nothing better you can do for your children than get their self-esteem to a whole new level.
Right. That's
Like I
powerful.
like my cousin brought her kids when they were 9 and 11. And then they grew up and they're doing amazing things now. And the girl Marissa became a family therapist
Mhm.
and she just got a TEDx talk and
Mhm.
she brought her daughter who was I think 14 to the last awakening, the last retreat I did. So that was the third generation. And I
Wow.
love that Marissa grew up to be this amazing person and now her daughter gets to be.
Yeah. That's it's like you're a grandfather for hundreds, thousands of people, all the people
Yeah,
you've worked with over the years. You get
yeah.
to see the impact in their lives. That's so
Yeah,
rewarding.
I can't tell you what like usually about once an awakening on a break, I'll go off by a window and look out and I'll just burst into tears because I'm so full of gratitude that I've been blessed with these gifts to just do what I can to support people in blossoming. I mean, that's the greatest high for me is watching people blossom.
Wow. Well, I mean, I've I've already inspired by everything you shared. You've talked about taking Rise Leadership Group to the next level, and how, you really want to focus on supporting leaders who are really, as you mentioned, um, really, really special leaders who really want to make this impact on the world.
My TEDx talk is out there doing great things, and I've been able to work with some amazing leaders
Mhm.
who are sincere about making a difference and not just making the money.
Mhm.
Although I have helped them really increase their profit so they can do good things.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I'd like to see happen in the next year.
Powerful. That's a powerful vision. And what do you feel like is going to be the biggest challenge for you in expanding in that direction?
I think the biggest challenge is that, like, when I'm in front of the room facilitating, I'm a miracle worker,
Mhm.
but I've never been good at marketing or business. I
Mhm.
mean, I've done great, you know, I can't complain,
Yeah.
but I want to surround myself with people who are genius in those areas
Mm, mhm.
so that my business doesn't get hindered by any of my flaws in that area.
Right.
But I'm excited for the new school community that we're creating. There's a program called SKOOL, and I'm excited that we're doing that. I'm excited that I'm going to be doing a TEDx talk sometime probably this year.
Mhm.
And I want to attract people who are genius in
Mhm.
that area
Mhm.
to to be able to focus more on some of the innovative programs that I'm excited about creating.
Yeah.
I've got some new things that I'm discovering that I'm very excited about. And I want
Mm.
to be able to use my time to focus on those things rather
Yeah.
than having to deal with the business as much as I
Right.
do.
That's where definitely where you make the most impact, and that's where
Yeah.
your skill sets are the strongest. That makes complete sense. I mean, I think, as you mentioned, that's an industry-wide challenge that a
Yeah.
lot of people are
Yes.
facing. And yeah, it's definitely, something that has, I agree, like, come about more so after COVID, right? It's a changing
Yeah.
industry, and it's ever evolving, ever changing, and it's
Yeah.
something you, as the program development, expert, needs to constantly adapt to, in addition to, you don't be worrying about all that other stuff, all the marketing, right? Because you want to be focusing on adapting to what people need.
That's right. That's right. Yeah.
Yeah.
One thing I'm extremely proud of is that it's taken me many decades to really master this, but I have finally gotten to the point where I'm not defensive at all.
Mm.
Like, I get tons of feedback from my staff because we're all extremely honest with each other. We don't pull any punches. And I finally got to the point where I can sincerely say to myself,
Mhm.
I love everything about you. And I can sincerely say that to anybody.
Mm.
And because of a profound experience I had, which I'll share with you later, because of this profound experience, I was able to perceive people at a much higher level.
Mhm.
I can see like the next 4 or 5 years of their life and whether they're headed for good news or lessons. I
Mm.
can't tell them what I see 5 years down the road because it ends up. I learned early on that they get scared subconsciously and then they sabotage it. But I can tell them what I see in the next year for where they're going and what would get them there the fastest and all that. But I also, in my public seminars, I do something called higher self readings, where I
Mhm.
go around to the new people and I give them just, and even in the corporate trainings, I teach a tool called um, the greatest key to influence,
Mm. Mhm.
where the greatest key to influence is to recognize and to speak
Mhm.
to one's highest nobility.
Hmm.
So,
Interesting.
in both corporate and public seminars, when the space is safe enough, I'll
Mhm.
have a volunteer come up to the front and I'll have people call out their intuitive sense of this person's greatest gifts, strengths, or talents.
Wow.
And it's amazing. People's eyes are open that, first of all, they can see those things.
Hmm.
And the person in front of the room, it often becomes one of the best moments of their life. And then I get people in small groups and they do it for each other.
Mhm.
And it's amazing to watch how people are like, wow, I had no idea that people really can see my gifts and my strengths. And, it's a really beautiful exercise.
And we so rarely are given the opportunity to give that sort of feedback, that sort of positive feedback to one another, especially in the workplace, right? Where we're, maybe constantly putting out fires or dealing with, all sorts of stuff. And so to create that space in a workplace environment, that is incredibly life changing, not only for the individuals, but for the organization and the engagement, the team camaraderie, everything, that goes along with that. That's really beautiful.
Oh, when I've done it in the corporate arena, a slightly different version, um, if they do that at the start of every day,
Mhm.
it's amazing how much their productivity increases.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a simple exercise, and yet it's what people are craving.
Right. So we all need to feel motivated to be putting effort into anything, right? Relationships or job, everything in our life.
And then there's another tool, like there's two tools that I like to do in the corporate arena because
Mhm.
people spend so much time judging each other because everybody's a human that has faults and. But because I learned a long time ago that there is no such thing as hangups.
Mm. Mhm.
Every so-called hangup, every dysfunction, everything that people criticize themselves for is actually ultimately a hidden great gift, strength, or talent
Mm.
in disguise.
Interesting.
So in the corporate arena, when I do a process called the gifts within every conflict,
Mhm.
or how to melt your favorite jerk, or when somebody wants to rise in the company, they want to get to more leadership roles,
Mhm.
and I'll teach them a real simple skill called half an hour every day, no matter what anybody says to you,
Mhm.
even if they're being nasty or mean or whatever. I want you to become a master at recognizing the positive intent behind their negative behavior, what we
Mm.
call the sweetheart message.
Mm.
Because if you can learn how to recognize that in people and then feed it back to them,
Mhm.
like when my cousin did my trainings and she worked for the mayor, everybody at the mayor's office thought she walked on water because she got good at that skill. And no
Mm.
matter what, no matter what silly thing people did, she would always feed back to them the positive intention behind the negative behavior.
Mm. Yeah.
It creates more admiration and respect than just about anything else you could do.
Mm. Yeah. Wow. Thank you for sharing this with me. Um, our time is coming a bit to an end, which makes me sad because you have so many insights and stories to share, and I'm learning so much from listening to you. What advice would you give somebody who's trying to build a leadership training business today?
I would say that your greatest key to success is not going to be anything that's outside of you. If you
Mhm.
keep trying to change your circumstances,
Mm,
it's going to slow you down.
mm,
The
mm,
best thing you can do, that anybody can do, is use what I call the inner game. Your own pictures, thoughts, feelings, behavior, because your entire reality is so because you say it is so.
mm,
So look and discover, how am I creating this reality that I'm creating? What did I do or not do that elicited that? All the answers are inside. If you can get better at knowing that you've got the power to create a whole new reality,
yeah.
then you will basically, you will do what works,
Mhm.
and that will create your success.
What would you say to somebody to help them to take the first step in that direction of learning how to, believe in their own innate
Yeah.
power?
I have a paper that's like 9 tools that we teach people in the long-term program. I'm going to give you the first one because it can eliminate like 90 to 95% of all the negative stuff in people's heads.
Mhm.
It's called hang up the phone. It means when you recognize any thought that
Mhm.
is negative,
Mhm.
any thought, you literally hang up the phone like the old phones, and you take that thought and put it in a separate room, because all the negative thoughts are telling you what you don't want.
Right.
And inadvertently, they're pointing to what you do want. People don't realize that when they're focused on what they don't want, they're literally moving in that direction. They're moving toward what they don't want. If you take that thought and say, well, that's what I don't want, so what is it I do want? And then you figure out, how am I going to move toward what I do want? Like, it's taken me a long time, but I've become a master at that skill. Um, and so, like most human beings, spend 80 to 95% of their time in negative thinking. And
Mhm.
they think it's reality.
Mhm.
It's not. If you learn how to take all your negative thoughts and self-criticism and just put it in another room and focus on what makes your heart sing, focus on what you do want, focus on your highest excitement, pretty
Mhm.
soon you'll start to realize that you're not paying attention to your negative thinking anymore.
Mhm.
You're focused on what's going to work and make you successful and what's going to create results.
Wow. It's almost like training a dog. Like train our mind in some way. Find some way to train our mind to
You literally train your brain.
yeah.
And I always tell people, when I give them a new skill that's powerful, I say, do it every day for 30 days.
Mhm.
That changes the neural in your brain, and then you've got a habit.
Yeah. Yeah, that's powerful. Thank you, Gary. This has been so incredible. As I mentioned, I really don't want this to end. I really have enjoyed hearing all of your insights on today's call. Your experience and your stories and everything are just so inspiring. And I know a lot of our listeners who, are developing, whether they're, trying to get in the corporate leadership space themselves as a small business, or they're looking to bring in leadership offerings to their company. They're going to find so many jewels in this conversation. So thank you again.
Can I tell people how to get a hold of me?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Go ahead.
Okay. My website is called riseleadershipgroup.com.
Mhm.
riseleadershipgroup.com. And if they want to email me, they can email me to Gary at RISE,
Mhm.
riselg.com.